okay. As a wise man once said, we've got shared trauma.
So it's a little more, right?
That ring in season 5. Volume 1, episode 3 is not a romantic setup. It is a warning label. You see it clearly. Murray slides a John Coltrane cassette tape across the table. Jonathan opens it, and inside is an engagement ring for Nancy. Not in a box, hidden in the tape, like it is contraband.
Let me get one of those.
Sure thing.
Thanks.
Don't worry, Mr. Byers. I got you a present. Just give it a whirl. I think you'll find it quite engaging.
And Jonathan does the one thing that makes the scene feel wrong. He does not use it. He puts it back. He chooses later. That is not a proposal scene. It looks like a death flag. Now I know what you are thinking. Jonathan is too important. He is an original. The show will not touch him. But that logic is exactly why he is the perfect sacrifice. Because the death that hurts the most is the one you cannot imagine them doing. Everything suggests the ring is the clue, but Jonathan's arc is the proof. Stranger Things opens with Will disappearing. Jonathan instantly becomes the person holding the family together. He takes the guilt. He takes the fear. He takes the responsibility. He is the quiet spine of the Byers household. For 5 seasons, his arc has been sacrifice. He postpones his own happiness for everyone else. He chooses the family over himself every time.
Yeah. Her sister is missing? Her parents almost died?
Sure, but what about,
No, I don't.
Coltrane, Love Supreme? Did you give it a whirl?
Yeah,
And?
it was very nice.
And?
What? Thank you?
Christ, man, you haven't done it yet, have you? I thought you...
And in a final season, the spine is the piece you snap to prove the stakes are real. So what does the ring mean? Murray does not hand Jonathan a ring just to create relationship drama. The scene is built like foreshadowing. The ring is hidden inside music and memory, inside an object that can be replayed after someone is gone. It is the kind of item that survives the person who should have used it. Jonathan is encouraged to propose, but he refuses. Not because he does not love Nancy, but because his instinct is always to postpone his own happiness for the sake of everyone else. He has been doing that since season 1, and that is where the writers turn the knife. When a story gives a character the thing they want, and they still cannot take it, that is usually not slow burn. That is a setup for regret. It is the show saying, you are about to watch him lose the future he keeps delaying. This is where the counter-argument collapses. He is too important to die is not protection. It is permission. Because the final season needs one death that feels like the show changed the rules. Not a random casualty. Someone you assumed was safe. Jonathan fits that perfectly. Now look at what the show has quietly done to him. For seasons, Jonathan has been present but not centered. He is positioned as the emotional support beam, the older brother who keeps Will steady, the calm voice, the person who stops the Byers family from collapsing. Writers do this on purpose when they are setting up a sacrifice. They turn a character into stability, because when stability dies, the whole story shakes. The most brutal moments in Stranger Things are not monster attacks. They are objects left behind, letters, tapes, the things people leave when they think they will not come home. Hopper's letter to 11 crushed people because it was late.
Feelings. Jesus. The truth is,
You were right.
for so long, I'd forgotten what those even were.
This whole time, you were right.
I've been stuck in one place. In a cave, you might say. A deep, dark cave. And then I left some egos out in the woods, and you came into my life, and for the first time in a long time, I started to feel things again. I started to feel happy.
Words meant for a moment that would never happen again. A future that was stolen. A ring that never becomes a proposal does the exact same thing. It is a future Jonathan cannot reach. It is a life he keeps delaying. And if he dies, that ring becomes a message from a timeline that was stolen. Proof that he was planning to stop sacrificing. Proof that he wanted more. But he ran out of time.
Hey, it's gonna be okay. As a wise man once said, we've got shared trauma.
So it's a little more, right?
Here is the part that makes this feel like deliberate storytelling, not internet paranoia. The ring is not just a clue. It is designed as an artifact of loss, not a moment of joy. That is a strange choice for a proposal gift, unless the show wants to focus on what it represents after Jonathan is gone, not during a celebration. Which means the ring is built for Nancy to find, not for Jonathan to use. Why the ring is hidden in the cassette, why it is portable, why it can be found, why it can be passed on. Because its emotional payoff does not require Jonathan to be alive. The ring is designed to survive him. Nancy's arc is choice. She investigates, she fights, she leads, she decides. Jonathan's arc is sacrifice. He chooses everyone else over himself. Those arcs only fully connect if Jonathan pays the cost of that habit. And that is why the show would do it. So here is the prophecy. And I am going to make this specific because predictions are what separate prophecy from analysis. Jonathan dies in the back half, right when the story needs emotional fuel to push the party into the final confrontation. The ring comes back into the plot immediately after, not as romance, but as grief. By episode 8, that ring is back in Nancy's hands, and her choice about what to do with it will determine whether Jonathan's sacrifice means anything. Does she hide it? Does she wear it? Does she turn it into a promise that the Byers family will survive, even if Jonathan does not? That moment will be the clip people share, the moment fans say they hate it, but they cannot forget it. So if you are staring at that ring scene and telling yourself it is just a cute hint, I am telling you the opposite. The show has placed a tiny piece of metal inside a cassette tape and dared you to ignore it. The Dungeon Master wanted you comfortable with Jonathan being safe. The Dungeon Master wanted you to look past him. But the ring is already in play. And when Volume 2 hits the table, Jonathan is the one who does not walk away when the final roll comes.
She's always been a real jerk.
Used to be cool. Like that time she dressed up as an elf for our Elder Free campaign.
4 years ago!
Just saying.
Later. It was a 7.
Huh?
The roll, it was a 7. The Demogorgon, it got me. See you tomorrow.
Stranger Things, Vol 1 was supposed to be bad. Not because the writers forgot how to write, but because they were running a Dungeon Master's playbook. And Vol 1 is the part of the campaign where the party keeps failing rolls, arguing about the plan, and wasting time while the villain gets stronger. And that is exactly why so many viewers felt annoyed. The slow pacing, the awkward conversations, the moments that feel like plot armor, the weird sense that the story is stalling instead of sprinting. What if all of that is not a mistake, but the structure? Let me show you the Dungeons & Dragons campaign framework, hiding in plain sight, and why Volume 1 had to feel like a grind for Volume 2 to hit like a critical success. Act 1, the setup that traps the party. In a real D&D campaign, the Dungeon Master does not start with the final boss. They lock the players into the world first. They remind you who you are, what you can do, and what you are scared of. Then, they drop one big problem on the table and force the party to react. That is what Volume 1 feels like. It is not trying to deliver payoffs yet. It is doing the unsexy job of re-establishing the rules and the tone, because the finale only works if the audience understands the board. That is why Volume 1 is full of scenes that feel like setup. People reconnecting, people debating, people explaining what changed. In D&D terms, this is Session 0 energy. The table is aligning. The party is being reformed. Session 0 is boring if you are not the one playing, but it is essential. So when viewers say nothing is happening, the D&D answer is something is happening. The DM is building constraints. Act 2, the frustration phase, failed rolls and slow clues. Here is a rule good DMs live by. If you want the finale to feel earned, you cannot give the party the solution early. You make them search. You make them test theories. You make them argue. You make them chase false leads. Not because you hate them, but because effort creates investment. So campaigns have long investigation stretches where the fun is not combat. The fun is tension. Who do we trust? Which door do we open? What is the plan? And who is going to mess it up? Volume 1 plays like that. Heavy on conversations, heavy on movement, heavy on information gathering. And if you came in expecting non-stop action, it feels like a downgrade. But in D&D, this is where the DM is quietly doing 3 things. First, they are draining resources, not just weapons, emotional resources, trust, confidence. The party starts second-guessing themselves. Second, they are establishing threats that cannot be solved with one hero moment. That is how you stop the story from becoming one character, saving everyone every time. Third, they are setting up the twist that will make everything before it click. So those complaints start to look different. The sluggish pacing becomes travel time. The DM forces the party through the map because the map matters. The awkward dialogue becomes party debate under pressure. Players do not talk like screenwriters. They talk like humans trying to survive. And the plot armor moments become what DMs call soft fails. Characters live, but they lose something. Time, safety, a clue, a friend, momentum, which leads to the core idea, failing forward. Good DMs do not stop the story when you fail. They redirect it. You miss the shot, therefore the monster escapes. You fail the check, therefore you get the clue, but it costs you time. You make the wrong call, therefore the villain gets a free move. Volume 1 is built on that feeling. Every win is messy. Every plan has a cost. Every moment of relief gets followed by another problem. That is not sloppy writing. That is the dungeon master keeping the table sweating. And most campaigns have one more ingredient that makes the middle act hurt: the early villain encounter. The party meets the big bad too early. Not to win, to lose. The purpose is to teach a brutal truth. You are not ready. Your normal tricks do not work, and the villain is not impressed. That is why Volume 1 can feel hopeless. The DM is raising the stakes, so the final battle does not feel like a routine fight. It feels like survival. In other words, Volume 1 is the chapter called Humiliation. And humiliation is what makes the comeback satisfying. Act 3. What this structure tells us about Volume 2. If Volume 1 is built like a D&D campaign, it tells us something simple. Volume 1 is not the story. It is the setup for the story. It is the part of the campaign where the party learns the rules of the dungeon, where the DM shows you what the monster can do, where characters make choices that feel dumb in the moment, but become the reason they win later. That is why Volume 1 can feel like it is stalling. It is intentionally adding weight, so the finale has something to explode off of. It also tells us what Volume 2 must deliver for this to work. 1. Volume 2 must cash in the clues. If Volume 1 planted mysteries, Volume 2 has to answer them cleanly. In D&D terms, the DM stops being vague and finally shows you the monster sheet. 2. Volume 2 must turn soft failures into hard wins. The party needs a moment where a plan actually works. Not perfectly, but clearly. A real turning point. 3. Volume 2 must complete character arcs. The entire reason you sit through slower roleplay episodes is because you want the emotional payoff when someone finally makes the brave choice. If Volume 2 does that, the audience will look back at Volume 1 and say, okay, that was the price of admission. But if Volume 2 does not do that, then Volume 1 will feel like filler forever. So here is my take. The Duffers are not just referencing D&D with cute monster names. They are using the actual campaign rhythm: setup, investigation, failure, early villain encounter, cliffhanger, then the finale where the party rolls their best dice. Which means your frustration with Volume 1 is not proof it was bad. It is proof it worked. Because the DM wanted you uncomfortable. The DM wanted you doubting the plan. The DM wanted you begging for the payoff. Now the only question is, do they stick the landing or do they fumble the final roll? If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe for more Stranger Things theories that actually use the rules of the game the show is obsessed with. And tell me in the comments, what was the moment in Volume 1 that felt the most like a failed D&D roll?
It was this weird feeling, like something I really haven't felt before. Mike thinks it could mean that maybe Vecna's close, that he's finally reemerged. And if he has, maybe we'll find him tonight.
Will Byers is the real final boss of Stranger Things 5. Not because he turns evil, but because the ending runs straight through him. And the wild part is, the show has been warning us about this since Season 1. Everyone is busy arguing who dies, what twist is next, and how Vecna wins. But nobody is asking the one question that actually matters. Why does Vecna keep circling back to Will? And why does one tiny detail from the trailer change the entire game? Here's the trap the fandom fell into. We keep treating Vecna like he is the final source of evil, like he is the original monster, like if 11 beats him, the story ends. But Stranger Things doesn't work like that. Stranger Things is a D&D campaign. And in D&D, the final boss isn't always the loudest villain in the room. Sometimes the final boss is the mechanic, the door, the cursed object, the person who becomes the bridge, and that's Will. Because once you stop looking at Stranger Things like good guys versus Vecna, and you start looking at it like the party versus the system, the ending becomes terrifyingly clear. Vecna is not the system. Vecna is a piece of it. To understand that, you have to stop thinking the Upside Down is the origin. We've been saying the Upside Down like it's the source of everything. But what if it's not the source? What if it's the fuse, the bridge, the overlap between worlds? Because if there's a deeper realm underneath it, a place that existed first, then the Upside Down stops being the villain's home base and becomes something way worse. A passage, a connection point, a mechanism designed to spread. Therefore, the final battle isn't just a fight, it's a shutdown. And now we get to the part people keep skipping. Henry Creel. Most fans think Henry was born evil, like he was always destined to become Vecna. But if Henry wasn't born evil, and he wasn't the original mastermind, that changes everything. Because the version of Henry we meet later is not just a bad kid with powers. He acts like someone who absorbed a new ideology, a new worldview, a new set of rules, control, order, reshaping nature, turning people into pieces on a board. That doesn't feel like a normal human evolution. That feels like a host. And the proof is hiding in one place: the cave. The theory goes like this. Henry's first real change begins after a cave incident tied to early experiments, an accident, an exposure to something older than the Upside Down, something from the deeper realm. He comes back different, not just stronger, different. Blood and biology no longer normal. Personality shifts, obsession becomes the point. But here's the scariest part. Henry doesn't invent the Mind Flayer shape. He sees it first, and later he copies it. So if Henry is copying something he already saw, that means the Mind Flayer isn't his creation, it's his influence. That means Vecna isn't the top of the pyramid, he's a tool. And the body gives us a tell that's easy to miss. There's a line that basically says he likes it cold. That sounds small, but it's not. It's a biological fingerprint. Like the thing inside him is aligned with an environment that rejects heat. Therefore, it's not just Henry likes the cold. It's the infection speaking. And once you understand that, you realize the Mind Flayer doesn't just control bodies. It spreads a mindset, it spreads a pattern, which brings us back to Will, because Will has been carrying the pattern since season 1. Now here's where most people still get it wrong. They assume Vecna chose Will because Will was weak, because Will broke easily. But that explanation doesn't hold up, because if Will was just a random victim, why does he stay central to the plan for 5 seasons? Why does the story keep bringing us back to his connection, like it's a ticking bomb? The better answer is darker. Will wasn't the easiest target. Will was the intended target. Will was chosen first because he was compatible, because he could become something. And the parallels between Will and Henry aren't just cute writing, they're clues. Henry is described as a sensitive child. Will is described as a sensitive kid. Henry talks like someone who feels different from everyone. Will carries the same emotional wiring. Even the phrasing of, "I just want it to be over," hits like a mirror. The point is not that Will and Henry are the same person, but they are the same type of conduit. Same type of receiver, same type of vessel. Therefore, Will isn't just connected. Will is the perfect endpoint. And the cave proves it in the creepiest way possible. Because there's a moment where Max escapes, falls into the cave tied to Henry's first exposure, and suddenly Vecna stops. He doesn't chase, he shows fear. That matters because fear is human. Fear is not the move of a final boss who thinks he's in total control. It's the move of someone who remembers what happened to him. It proves there's still a crack in the system. It proves Vecna is not fully in charge. But if Vecna isn't fully in charge, who is? Now the D&D proof finally lands. Stranger Things has always told you how to read it. The party, the classes, the monsters, the levels. Even the way they name threats is literally D&D logic. So ask yourself this. In a D&D campaign, what is Vecna? Vecna is a boss? Sure, but he's also a high-level servant of something bigger. A conduit, a cleric-style vessel. Power granted by a higher being. But Will is different. Will isn't just borrowing power. Will is becoming the amplifier, the antenna, the network endpoint. That's the twist most people miss. 11 is your damage dealer. She hits hard, she breaks walls, she forces doors open. But Will is the door. Will is the map. Will is the mechanic the final fight is built around. Therefore, the final boss isn't a person you punch. It's a bridge you have to shut down. And Will becomes the living bridge. And once that idea clicks, everything in the trailer becomes terrifying. Because the Upside Down isn't just a spooky dimension. It's a passageway formed by collision. A liminal space created when 2 realms overlap. A bridge that can be widened, stabilized, weaponized. And that's why kidnapped children and psychic anchors matter in this story. Because it's not a gate opens. It's a system is being expanded. It's the bridge becoming permanent. Then you get the visual payoff that makes this whole theory feel inevitable. A massive shadow creature emerges, resembling the 3-headed dragon from Will's painting. And that's the point. Will has been drawing the final boss before the party even understood the campaign. Not because Will is evil, but because Will is connected deeply enough to see what's coming. So now the stakes are clear. Vecna is not the ending. Will is. Because Will was marked in season 1 in a way no one else was. He isn't just the guy who can sense Vecna. He is a living bridge between the real world and the deeper realm. And if Vecna's plan is to merge worlds, he needs one thing. A stable human gateway. A vessel that can hold the connection without collapsing. That's Will. That's why the finale isn't 11 versus Vecna. It's the party versus the bridge. And here's the part that hurts. You can't win by killing Will. If Will is the final boss mechanic, the win condition becomes saving him without letting the bridge complete. That's what makes this ending brutal. Not a final punch, a final choice. The party has to sever the network, collapse the connection, and free Will from the hive mind, even if it costs them everything. So my theory is simple. Vecna is the face of the threat, but the Mind Flayer is the system, and Will is the endpoint. That's why Will is the real final boss of Stranger Things 5. Because the last battle doesn't happen in a battlefield. It happens inside the bridge, inside Will. Now I want to know what you think. If you had to assign Will a D&D class for the finale, what is he? Sorcerer, Warlock, Cleric, or something darker? If you're still watching, comment Will final boss.
The needle's naturally drawn to the Earth's magnetic North Pole.
So, what's wrong with him?
Well, that's what I couldn't figure out, but then I remembered. You can change the direction of a compass with a magnet. If there's the presence of a more powerful magnetic field, the needle deflects to that power. And then I remembered what Mr. Clark said. The gate would have so much power.
Disrupt the electromagnetic field.
Exactly.
Meaning, if we follow the compasses north?
They should lead us to the gate.
We are all supposed to see Dustin as the brain of the party. The kid with the rules, the references, the science, the walkie-talkies. He is the one who figures out the pattern, names the monster, and then explains to everyone what they are up against using D&D. Demogorgon, Mind Flayer, Vecna. We all cheer when he makes those connections because it makes the story feel clever.
In the presence of a stronger electromagnetic field, the needle will deflect towards that power. So either there's some super big magnet around here, or there's a gate.
But we're nowhere near the lab.
But what if, somehow, there's another gate? A gate that we don't know about. It has to be smaller, way less powerful.
Snack-sized cake.
How? Why? No idea.
The show is using D&D as a fun reference, right? But if you look at how naming and dungeon masters work in D&D, and you look at how the Upside Down keeps matching his words, a darker idea starts to appear. I do not think Dustin is just describing the monsters. I think he is helping create them. In D&D, the dungeon master is the one who decides what exists. Players roll dice and make choices, but the DM names the monsters, draws the map, and sets the rules. If the DM says a Demogorgon steps out of the shadows, that is what happens. The name gives the creature form, stats, and threat level. In a lot of fantasy, names are power. A true name can bind a demon. A title can shape a destiny. The moment something is named, it becomes more real. Now watch Dustin. In season 1, the kids are terrified by a tall, faceless creature with a flower mouth. It is just the monster at first. Then they sit at the table, look at the board, and Dustin says the word, Demogorgon.
No! That didn't come from troglodytes, no, that came from something else. The Demogorgon!
From that moment on, that is how we understand it. The creature is no longer a random horror. It is a Demogorgon, a specific D&D nightmare with 2 heads and a certain kind of presence. The Upside Down, whatever it really is, suddenly has a clear template to lean into. In season 2, Will draws a storm, a shadow. Dustin looks at it, thinks of a classic D&D villain, and gives it a name, the Mind Flayer.
The Mind Flayer.
The hell is that?
It's a monster from an unknown dimension. It's so ancient that it doesn't even know its true home. It's me. It's your friend. It's Dustin. It's Dustin, right? You remember me? Will you let us pass?
The show could have picked any monster. It could have left it vague. Instead, the kids start treating it like a hive mind strategist who takes over bodies and wants to spread across the world, exactly like the D&D version. In season 4, they see the new killer, the one who breaks bones and invades minds. Dustin flips through his mental monster manual and lands on another name, Vecna.
Wait, what?
There's one thing we've never understood, which is why Vecna's killing people. So what if, with each kill, he's not simply killing them? He's making a powerful psychic connection with his victims, a connection powerful enough to rip a hole in the fabric of time and space.
Suddenly, the rules of the story shift again. Now this is not just a ghost or demon. This is the Lich, the big boss, the level 20 problem, the one with a history in D&D, with artifacts and betrayals and legendary status. Every time Dustin names a threat, the Upside Down seems to grow into that costume. So here is the theory. What if the entity behind all of this is more formless than we think? Not a Demogorgon, not a Mind Flayer, not Vecna, but something stranger, something that reacts to expectation. It pushes into their world as raw horror, and then listens. It listens to the boys at the table. Dustin, the smartest kid in the room, sees something he cannot explain and reaches for the closest D&D parallel. He wraps the unknown in a name. In doing so, he gives the unknown a shape to copy. The Demogorgon becomes a hunter that stalks through portals because that is how they think a Demogorgon behaves. The Mind Flayer becomes a psychic hive mind that spreads through heat and fear because that is what the name suggests. Vecna becomes a disfigured lich with a tragic backstory and a plan because that is how the kids picture him. Dustin is the accidental DM of Hawkins, and the enemy is using his imagination as a blueprint. This does not mean Dustin is evil. It makes him painfully human. Faced with chaos, he reaches for the language he knows to make it make sense. That is what all of us do. But in a world where thought and fear have weight, naming things might be more than just comfort. It might be spellcasting. Here is where it gets really interesting. In a D&D game, the DM can always decide to homebrew, to stop using the monster manual and make up something new. The moment they do that, the players no longer have a guide. They cannot assume anything. They have to treat the creature as truly unknown. Stranger Things has never done that. Every big bad has gotten a D&D label. So in Stranger Things 5, the level 20 twist could be simple. They stop naming things. The final form of the enemy appears. It might be a fusion of Mind Flayer, Vecna, and whatever else is behind the scenes. Old Dustin would scramble for the right term. He would flip through creatures in his head and pin a title to it. This time, he refuses. He realizes that every name he has thrown at the darkness has helped it organize itself, helped it solidify into a story it knows how to win. He tells the others not to compare it to anything, not to call it by any D&D name at all. They fight it as what it is, not as a monster out of the book. That breaks the pattern. It denies the Upside Down the comfort of a script. There is no stat block to lean on, no classic weakness to turn against them, no classic strength to exploit. It is just raw horror against raw human courage. For Dustin, that is a huge character shift. His whole identity has been wrapped up in being the guy who knows what page the answers are on. In the finale, his big hero move might be admitting that sometimes the smartest thing you can say is, "I do not know what this is." So I do not think Dustin just names the monsters. I think in a very real way, he has been helping to write them into existence. And the only way to win the final fight is for him to break his own pattern and leave the last monster unnamed. Whether you think the entity behind the Upside Down is formless or something very specific, tell me in the comments if you like the idea of Dustin as the accidental DM. And if you are still watching, drop no name down below so I know you are part of the party.